August 26th, which is tomorrow, is FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP or eyeing a long shot division winner, or you're just ready to crown the Super Bowl champ a week before it starts, this is your moment. So visit the FanDuel app today and start planning for your future bets now. Because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. Now we're bringing in Hall of Famer Joe Thomas.
Welcome, Joe. What's up, Joe?
Hey, what's up, guys? How are you?
Hey, you did great work on the preseason. I love listening to you and Chris. Great insight, really good listen. I have a question for you. We had you on after the draft, and you made a comment about the quarterbacks and how they are analyzed. You said, and this really stuck with us, we've repeated it a million times, we're going to find out, and you usually find out really quickly what you have at quarterback. What did you find out this preseason?
Well, I think that the evaluations that the Browns made for Dillon Gabriel and for Shedeur Sanders were spot on. I think that right now Dillon Gabriel is more ready to step into a true NFL game to be able to lead his team. I don't think anybody in Berea wants that to happen because clearly Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett are more ready right now to be able to give this offense the best chance of success. But if something were to happen with those two guys and you weren't going to go to that next quarterback, I think Dillon Gabriel has showed that he's much more able to see the NFL defense and to handle an entire playbook and to deliver the football on time and on the money consistently. However, Shedeur Sanders, just like a lot of people talked about before the draft, is a big-time playmaker with a high ceiling. He's got a lot to learn, and we saw that against the Rams. But he's still an interesting project, and both of those guys are developing quite nicely. And I think that because they both had good stretches in the preseason, there's a lot to be excited about. But I think there was some mistakes for both quarterbacks, like you'd expect from a rookie. So I think we're kind of in the same spot as far as evaluation goes before training camp started. And I think everybody in Berea is really happy with where those guys are because they've developed nicely. They've showed their skills, but they've also showed us that they've got a lot of work to do.
Joe, how confident are you in the fact that we potentially will see both of the rookies this year? Because this fan base feels that you need to have answers on those two. Do you think we see both of them, even though maybe one of them or the two of them might not be ready for the NFL just yet?
I think there's a chance we see one of them. I think there's probably a strong chance. You heard Jimmy Haslam talk about that one of the things they want to find out this year is what they're going to do with those 2 first-round picks next year, specifically at the quarterback position. So that remains to be seen because it'll depend on how the season goes. I think that everybody knows the beginning of the season, the first 6 or so games are going to be pretty tough. Some call it a murderer's row. But once the Browns, if they get to a situation where they're not in playoff contention anymore, I think that's when they would go to those rookies to give them valuable reps, opportunity to showcase their skills and see where the development process is. But right now, I don't think anybody in Berea is thinking about that because they're thinking about, okay, how far can Joe Flacco and this offense take us? And there's hope that they're competitive all the way through the end of the season. But we all know that they've got a really tough schedule and things happen. And sometimes you find yourself midway later in the season where you're kind of on the outside of the playoff hunt looking in. And I think at that point, they're going to give the opportunity to certainly one of those young quarterbacks to showcase their stuff. And so that's why it's really important for both those guys to continue to grow and develop and do whatever they can to put their best foot forward to prove to the coaching staff that they should be that guy that gets that first opportunity if there is a situation when they want to move off of Flacco or Kenny Pickett and start evaluating those guys for next season.
Joe, you and Chris did a good job kind of detailing during the preseason game against LA how Shedeur was kind of drifting back in the pocket at times. And I'm curious from an offensive lineman perspective, when a quarterback does drift instead of necessarily step up in the pocket, how does that change what the tackles and the guards have to do to ensure he has, I don't want to say a clean alley to step into, but how does it change like the angles from an offensive line perspective when the quarterback isn't necessarily on his spot where you anticipate him being?
So it's really tough because as a tackle, we're blocking for a spot that's about 9 yards behind the center because that's where we're being told and we're being coached the quarterback's going to put his back foot and then he's going to start to step up and he's going to climb in the pocket as he goes through his progressions and his reads. One of the things that was a problem and a bad habit for Shedeur in college was the fact that he did drop back pretty deep, which is okay if you step up, but he tends to drift, and the way he likes to escape the pocket is through the back of the pocket instead of stepping up and trying to find space maybe between the tackle and the guard or the guards in the center. And that's a problem, and it showed its face against the Rams. And once the defensive end knows, hey, if I can just rush to a spot that's about 11 yards deep, that's where the quarterback's going to end up being. As a tackle, it's really, really difficult because what you would have to do to be able to take away that spot from a defensive end is now you have to set deeper and wider. So you basically have to overset the guy, which allows them an easy rush to the inside, or it also makes you softer because now you're going faster backwards. So your momentum is even going further and faster backwards. So it does make you soft and susceptible to a bull rush. So you really don't want to change what you're doing like in the middle of the game, because what should happen is the quarterback should change what they're doing. They should be stepping up. They should have that awareness, and they should get that feedback from the sideline. Like, hey, you can't keep backing up because you're just going to keep getting sacked. There's no way you can escape it. The only time I've seen throughout my career where it's okay for that quarterback to stay deep like that, and then the offensive line coach coordinator will say, hey, I want you to overset, I want you to set deep, because our quarterback's going to set up really deep, but you know what? He's a fantastic athlete. So Kevin Schaefer, who was the offensive tackle, he was the left tackle before I got here in Cleveland. He played for Michael Vick in Atlanta, and they used to run certain plays that were called where, hey, we want you to overset, we want you to set deep, because we want that defensive end to think he's got that sack. And now we got Michael Vick running around in space. Shedeur Sanders is not the speedster that Michael Vick is, so he's not going to be able to evade the rush at that depth. And so those guys on defense, they watch film. There's coaches in the boxes telling the guys in the sideline, hey, their quarterback is dropping deep, and he's getting deeper as the play goes on. So now those defensive ends are changing their angle, their rush. And so it becomes a bad thing that's just snowballing and getting worse and worse. And we saw that with, I think, 5 sacks that Shedeur took in the game. He just kept backing up and kept making it worse rather than making that adjustment to climb in the pocket.
Great insight. Joe, the big talker after the game, I think, was the fact that Kevin Stefanski decided to go with a guy on that final drive that he knew wasn't going to be on the roster instead of Shedeur Sanders. My theory was he was trying to save Shedeur from more damage. And also, I think he really wanted to get a look at Schmidt, who has a chance to make this team. Let's see if we can get him in position and try a pressure kick at the end of the game to win. Am I wrong on either of those counts? Why do you think? I know we all wanted to see him. I wanted to see him. Why do you think Kevin made that decision?
Bingo. You hit the nail on the head right there. And I said it on the broadcast. I said, oh, man, I wish we would get an opportunity to see Shedeur one more time in that 2-minute scenario. Dillon Gabriel, earlier in the game at the end of the first half, he had a couple bad plays, a couple misfires. They gave him an opportunity to go out in a 2-minute drive. He performed fantastic. He bounced back from a couple bad plays, and he took the team right down the field, scored a touchdown. It was a great drive. It was probably his best drive of the season, and it gave a lot of Browns fans a lot of hope and confidence and excitement in Dillon Gabriel, because that's who we want him to be. With Shedeur, I think Kevin did a good job of just kind of reading the situation, reading the frustration and the body language on the sideline and saying, hey, it's really bad right now, and I don't see that he's going to be able to pull himself out. So I don't want to put him in another situation where he goes out there in the 2-minute drive and gets himself hurt or plays even worse than he's already played, puts some of the other players in a bad situation, because he hasn't shown yet that he's going to make that change and not start stepping up in the pocket. And so I think Kevin Stefanski and the Browns have done a great job in protecting these quarterbacks in spite of widespread national criticism from some people about how they're handling these players. But they've been very consistent about saying, hey, these are developmental coaches, or these are developmental quarterbacks. We're doing what's best for them and for the team for the long term. We're not treating either one of these guys special, like as if they're our franchise quarterback right now. We're going to give them the same treatment that we would a developmental quarterback that we drafted in the middle rounds, because that's how we see them, and that's how we think that they're going to develop the best. And I agree with that. And I think it was the right move. He wanted to see his kicker, give him an opportunity, especially with Dustin Hopkins' struggles throughout last year and then this preseason. And he didn't want Shedeur to go out and ruin his confidence any more than it did and put anybody in harm's way. And so I think it was the right decision. Although us as fans, we wanted to see him out there one more time. We had this glimmer of hope that he was going to be able to turn it around. But I think that was a little bit unrealistic, maybe for me as a eternal optimist fan, to think that all of a sudden after what we'd seen, he was just going to flip the script and change things around and become the quarterback that we saw earlier in the season against Carolina.
Joe, you bring up him against Carolina. Do you think the competitor in him led to the performance he had? Reason I say that is against Carolina, he was the starting quarterback. You know, he went out there first. He did what he did. In this situation, Dillon Gabriel went out first, had a play incredible. Do you think he felt he needed to match what Dillon Gabriel did, and that's why he pushed so hard?
I think one of the things that Shedeur does best, his best attributes, is he is a competitor. He's a gamer. He's a guy that rises to the occasion when the stakes are the highest, which that usually works really well. But sometimes I think it can work the opposite for you when you are such a competitor, because you so badly want to go out there and make the big throw, make the big play, and you believe maybe in yourself more than you should a little bit sometimes, especially your scrambling ability, and your autopilot takes over in those situations instead of the training that you've had since you've got to Cleveland. And unfortunately, he's had a lot more coaching and a lot more experience outside of Cleveland than he has here in Cleveland with the Browns. And so I think Kevin Stefanski wisely realized that he's reverting back to the years and years of training and habits that he's had before he got here. And it's that drifting in the pocket. And it's just going to continue because he does so badly want to make that big play. And he does want to throw the football down the field and take his team down and change the narrative about what had been happening there. But I think that's just something that comes with more experience. And that's why the Browns have been so patient with him, understanding that sometimes what makes you the best also is the chink in your armor. And it's also the thing that you're going to have to work the hardest, just overcoming some of those bad habits that you have because of your superpower as a gamer and as a competitor, as a guy that wants to win so badly.
Joe, we saw you in joint practices in Carolina working alongside Dawand Jones and the rest of the Browns offensive line. As we get ready for week one now, and it's the real week one, not any preseason, not any joint practices, the real action. How confident are you in this Browns offensive line unit to keep Joe Flacco or whoever else is under center upright with a clean jersey come the real bullets flying?
I think they're a really good offensive line. I think their specialty is going to be running the football, and I think that's what the Browns and Stefanski are going to lean into, and I think that fits with this version of the Browns with a great defense, great defensive line, veteran quarterback, just getting back to that outside zone, the pin pull concepts, just ground and pound. I think pass protection, they're going to be really solid. I think Dawand is making good strides, but he still has a lot of room to grow out there playing left tackle, especially as he's transitioning from right tackle. But I've got a lot of confidence that this offensive line is going to be really, really sound in pass protection and give Flacco the time that he needs to be able to deliver the football when they do decide to throw it.
You mentioned the kicker. It's a cap hit if you keep Dustin Hopkins. Fans don't want to hear about that. You trot kickers out at the end of games. Oftentimes it's in the balance. You want a kicker that you can believe in. Has Dustin Hopkins done enough, in your view, to remain the kicker of the Cleveland Browns?
Good question. It's all about what are the alternative options. You know, it's not like Phil Dawson from 15 years ago is just sitting at home waiting for the call, because I mean, being a kicker in the NFL is a really tough job. It's a really important job. It's underappreciated. Everybody expects they're just going to go out there and nail it every time they have an opportunity to go kick the game-winning field goal, but that's just not the reality of the situation. And so the Browns would never say that they're nervous, but obviously empirical data from last year and this year has shown so far that Dustin Hopkins is struggling mentally with that side of it, which as a kicker, that's everything. It's like being a golfer, right? If you've got a little bit of a hitch in your swing, just like if you've got a little bit of a hitch and you're thinking a little bit too much about the process of kicking rather than just going out and using muscle memory, it's going to affect you, and it shows up when the stress is higher. So clearly there's some concern. We all had hoped, I think in preseason, that we weren't going to have any issues and that he was going to be able to mentally just put it behind him, what happened last year. But so far we've seen some of the same struggles. So I think he still gets the vote of confidence for week one, but clearly the Browns are thinking about, if this struggles continue with Dustin Hopkins on extra points and field goals, that they're going to have to kind of consider what plan B could be.
Joe, when you look at these rookies that was drafted by the Browns with the season starting next week, which one is you more excited for? Which one gets you hyped up the most?
Well, I think Harold Fannin Jr. is going to be a big part of this offense. He's shown tremendous hands. His ability to catch the football and get open and then run after the catch has been awesome. But I think Carson Schlesinger is going to be a guy that shows up a lot on defense because he has shown already his ability to rush the passer from that linebacker blitzing position. Jim Schwartz loves putting him up on the line of scrimmage and running stunts in games and blitzes from different directions. He's a very smart player. And so I think he's going to be a big impact player for the Browns this season. I think so far, Kevin Stefanski's draft, Andrew Berry's draft has been really, really solid. I think all those guys, Mason Graham in the first round, I think when Judkins comes back here, hopefully he signs his contract soon. I think he's going to prove to be a great player. So I think all of the rookies that I've seen out there have done a really, really good job, and a lot of them are going to contribute this season.
Joe, we'll get you out of here on this. Before I ask my question, though, I do have to tell you, we're a no free advertising show, no free ads. However, I see you wearing the Hall of Fame beef shirt. That was the best beef jerky I've ever had. Shout out to you for sending me the box. No free ads. By Hall of Fame beef jerky.
Man.
It was incredible. I know the Joe Thomas endorsement does a lot. That's the Mikey McNuggets endorsement for Hall of Fame beef jerky. So shout out to you, Joe.
Hey,
in all seriousness,
Joe,
mine must have been lost in the mail, Joe. I know mine was
You didn't
lost.
bring in any to share
McNuggets
with us.
didn't
he
share
share
any.
them.
It was
Didn't share
specific
any.
instructions.
Of course
to
not.
share
He ate them
all
all.
his coworkers,
I-
and he
I'll
ate
br-
it all. What a
I
selfish
think-
dude.
Joe, I'll buy some more. I'll bring it in for them. But it was so good, I ate it all. But in all seriousness,
McNuggets.
in all seriousness,
Got our back.
Aiden Huntington is going to make this 53-man roster. He wears 66. He flies all around the field, Joe. When you were playing, whether it's a rookie, veteran, at the end of your career, do you think you could have played all three phases, special teams, goal line, situation, heavy personnel, fullback, and defensive line, just like our guy Aiden Huntington's doing?
So I did play some defensive line in college. Played two. I had two games I played, bowl games, and I thought I did pretty good. I was the leading tackler my freshman year in our bowl game against Auburn.
Joe.
And then I played a little bit. Yeah, props.
That's
Here we
nuts,
go.
man.
Here we go. My junior year, I tore my ACL doing it, but was flying around playing D-line. So I think I feel like I could have done that, but that may be just like your ego of past accomplishments coming out. I do know one thing I would never have been able to do is that, and that's run down on kickoff, because
gunner.
that guy's a human missile, and I am not nearly fast at all, especially after tearing the ACL in college and wearing the knee braces as a lineman. You just kind of lose that speed. So I definitely couldn't have done three phases, but I feel like I could have got a sack or two out there at defensive end.
I
believe
love
it.
to have seen that.
I
to be
believe it.
honest with you.
Joe, we want to wrap it up this way. We do this every year. We watch them in the preseason. We look at the schedule. We make an assessment. I always make a realistic assessment, a pessimistic assessment, and an optimistic assessment. My pessimistic would be 2 wins. My realistic would be 4 wins. And my optimistic would be 6 wins. Am I nuts? What would your assessments be, your predictions for the season?
I think the preseason went really well because the team that they wanted to become, it seems like they're becoming that team. I mean, they're becoming a true team. You've got a lot of guys that understand their role and they understand their fit within the offense and the defense. There's a lot of buy-in. Kevin ran a much more challenging, tough, physical training camp, live tackling, longer practices, more physicality. And I think you saw the results in their joint practices, the way they beat up Carolina, they beat up Philadelphia. Having a chance to have dinner with the O-line and Flacco and Njoku and Kenny Pickett when I was down in Carolina with those guys, like, they're not saying it, but there's some good vibes. And they really feel that this is a team that's going to surprise some people. So I think those estimations there need to come up a little bit, because if you ask me, I think 8-9, 9-8 is probably about where they're going to finish the season.
Well,
and I think they can exceed that. I mean, just look back where they were the last time Flacco was here. I mean, that guy can run Stefanski's offense. If they can run the ball, if Quinshon Judkins comes back and becomes the beast that we think he can be, like, they can, they're not going to score like 40, but they can be a tough out on offense. They can control the football, and that defensive line is the best defensive line in the NFL, and it is going to be a problem for a lot of offenses, because Philadelphia Eagles, they got the best offensive line in the NFL, and they got whooped by the Browns defensive line in those joint practices over 2 days. So I'm really, really high on this team, especially when I consider what the outside national expectations are.
I
love to hear it. Yeah.
Joe, I said that a couple months ago and they laughed at me, so it's good to hear you 8-9 as well.
I'm not laughing at you, man.
No,
I'm right
I
with
hope
you.
you're right.
Thank you.
I would love that if you're right. I probably shouldn't do this because it's year to year, but I also factor in 50 years of being a Browns fan. I can't just forget all of that, and I always know that something's going to happen. We lead the league in drama every year. I don't know what it's going to be, but it's always something that knocks us off our course. Joe, great having you on. Thanks for sending that beef jerky for McNuggets. He enjoyed it. He's selfish, doesn't care for his teammates.
Not at all.
We now know what it is.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate you having me on.